Hello, it's Reija and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my very last wrap-up of 2021. So this will contain all of the books that I read in the months of November and December. And without further ado, let's get started. First up, I have a couple of DNFs that I want to quickly mention. First up is In Their Shoes, Navigating Non-Binary Life by Jamie Windust. And I wanted to read this because, in the past few years I've been doing a lot of self-reflection and going on a bit of a journey with regards to my whole gender identity and presentation and everything. So this was kind of me wanting to have some more non-binary voices in my lexicon and to know more about how people are living their non-binary life. And I DNF this book at about, I want to say 10 to 13% in, mainly because it was just it's very British. So there's a lot of vocabulary that you are assumed to know just as is, because it is geared towards obviously a British and English audience. So I didn't have a lot of the context and knowledge of what those phrases meant, which made the book feel like I wasn't in on the jokes and stuff. So it became very difficult to parse and read. So I decided that okay, I'm not going to continue because I am not the target audience. So I will just look for something else that will fill this similar itch, basically. So now I have 2 essay collections by non-binary authors that I want to read up next. But this was a miss for me. I would still recommend it if you are living in the UK. You might get a lot more out of this than I do. The next book that I DNF'd was The House with Chicken Legs by Sophie Anderson, and I didn't get very far with this at all. This was just one of those books where the tone and the main character just put me off the book. The main character lives in this very fantastical world and lives with in this house and this grandma, and they do these death rituals, and their whole job is to guide people to the afterlife. And the main character basically wants to go to the human world and wants to live with the rest of the normies, essentially. And that, to me, just felt like a kind of missed opportunity. It would have been much more cool if there was a character who wanted to come into her world, because it's a fantastical world, as opposed to her wanting to come to the normal world. And she was also kind of whiny, so I didn't really, I really didn't get on with it, so that's why I DNF'd. And obviously I don't rate my DNFs, and these might work for you. So, I just personally am trying to get into the habit of putting down books where I know that I am most definitely not the audience for that book, and therefore I can't give it a fair reading. So that's what I did with this. Then some manga that I have read is the first volume of Sweat and Soap by Kintetsu Yamada. And it is a story about this office worker who is an accountant at a cosmetics firm called Asako, and the lead soap designer of that company called Kotaro. And the premise of the story, this office romance between these two, is very different, because Kotaro, as a soap designer, basically he has trained his scent and his sense of scent to absurd limits, and Asako has this very unique personal natural scent to her, and Kotaro kind of becomes obsessed with her scent, and she basically becomes his inspiration and his muse, and they end up like dating. So that's kind of the premise, and if you can get past the sort of smelling people and like this whole sniffing kink, this is actually very wholesome. It is all about like Asako is someone who naturally sweats a lot and has kind of like a condition where she sweats more than the average human being, and she's very self-conscious about it. She has been bullied about it when she was a child, and therefore she has kind of made it her life's mission to avoid becoming sweaty, and she has worked these whole like day routines where she can basically like go to the toilet and wipe herself clean and stuff like that. So it's very like damaged her self-esteem, and also like she is very self-conscious about it, and Kotaro kind of like tries to get her to come out of her shell, and it's very wholesome, and personally I think that what I like about this is the communication between the characters. Like they talk to each other. Personally, what I don't like, the first volume is pretty fast paced and kind of quick, so it gets from this whole like premise of the two of them meeting to them actually starting to date really quickly. It could have, been done in a couple of volumes. Another thing is that this has the virginal main character trope, which I don't particularly like in a lot of josei, is that the main female character is always a virgin and deals with, this more experienced male character. For once, I would like it to be that the 30-something female character has actually had sexual experiences outside the first man who wants to date her. So, just a couple of pet peeves, but I am continuing on with the series, and I enjoyed it a lot, and it brightened up my day, and 3.5 stars. And the art style, let me just try to see a non smutty scene. The art style looks like this. So it's like pretty standard josei art. And next up I read A Master of Gin by P. Jelly Clark. This was one of my more anticipated reads of the year, and unfortunately it didn't work out for me as well as P. Jelly Clark's novellas and short stories have. I am still really looking forward to reading other things by P. Jelly Clark, but this novel was a bit of a hit, like a bit of a miss for me. First of all, it is paced like weirdly. The start is very slow, and by the end the pace has kind of picked up to the point of like a freight train going full steam ahead, which makes it feel very disjointed. Also, personally, I realized who the culprit was basically from the first clue. So having these supposedly really skilled detectives not figuring it out was really frustrating to me. And another thing was that I hoped that Hadia, who is Fatma's partner in this, I hope that she would have gotten to shine more. I felt like she was kind of relegated to side character status, whereas Fatma and her girlfriend got much more like screen time, and I honestly would have enjoyed it more if Hadia's and Fatma's dynamic was more the focus of the book. I ended up giving this 2.5 stars. It's not the worst thing I have ever read, but it kind of started to feel like a chore reading it, especially since I already kind of knew the culprit even before the big reveal. Also, I think that this novel kind of made Fatma be sort of this otherworldly person. Like at the same time, I felt like she was presented as a very naive person because she didn't pick up on these clues and stuff, but also like she was the chosen one and the solution to every single problem. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed in this, but I'm still looking forward to reading what other things P.J. Clark will put up there. Then in November, I read Silk and Steel Anthology edited by Janine A. Southard and containing multiple fantastic authors. And this is a queer anthology of like women loving women and like sword lesbians and princesses, and basically this idea that there's this one character who is like has more like softer skills and more feminine presenting, and the other character is more like technical or like more aggressive. And I really like this. If you want to know my full thoughts, I did a live show discussing this book. It's about 1 hour and 30 minutes long with Jenna from Bibliophile, so I would highly recommend you watching that one if you want my full unadulterated thoughts of this. But I gave this 3.5 stars. I thought that this was such a fun experience, and I'm very happy that I picked it for the first read of my book club. Then I read a Finnish book. I know, this is kind of insane. I read a Finnish language book. It was Ihana by Des Terentjeva, which translates to lovely. And it is this novel in verse, so it's kind of... it's a novel in verse, but also not quite. It's kind of like very like spoken word, stream of consciousness type of writing style. And it is about this girl who has a huge crush on a person she follows on like social media, and then she gets introduced to her father's new girlfriend, and this new girlfriend has a kid who is this person that she has been she has had a crush on, and how she navigates that and how she gets to know this person and stuff. And it's about navigating a crush. It is about because the person this main character has a crush on is non-binary. It goes through the troubles in Finnish language when you kind of have that gender neutral language, and you can sort of kind of live your life without coming out or without telling people, but then there's these minor things that make it where you get gendered, and which kind of break the illusion of that like neutrality in a sense. Like it was actually really interesting, and I thought that the main character, who is like 15, she had like that teenage voice was down. Like she did plenty of mistakes, and she constantly had this like inner monologue, like, can I say these things, like is this allowed and stuff like that. And also she like did some really stupid decisions as well, which is something that I feel like a lot of young adult authors sometimes fear to let their characters act out, and make them sort of like into mini adults. So I just thought that this was such an interesting piece of queer literature from my own country, which, so it was a fast read, it was quick, so it can't, in that span of like 120 or so pages, it was like this tiny, and a spoken word book, it can't really go too much in depth with these topics, but the fact that it tries is very interesting in itself. So I gave this 3.5 stars, and if you are a Finnish speaking person, I would highly recommend this book. And then I read The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. I did a 5 reasons to read video for the World Hopper Secret Santa video project, where I read one of Angela's favorite books. And I really liked this. I felt like basically all of my thoughts about this book are in that video, which I will link there. But I basically really like this sort of... I like books where people are trying to find magic and trying to bring magic back into the world. I like books that kind of try to deconstruct the colonial narratives of our own world by talking about them in a fictional context. I personally didn't like the romance between the main characters. I didn't think that a lot of that was earned. I liked their relationship when they were trying to sort of figure out their, like, balancing each other out and their, like, what their dynamic was and stuff. But the actual, like, romantic aspect of it was like, I don't think I need this. And the pacing was a little bit slow. Like, it takes this book a lot of time to actually get to the point in a sense. But other than that, I really enjoyed it, and this was a great debut in my opinion. And the last thing that I read in the year of 2021 was the first issue of Choreo magazine, which I read for the Shorts and Sorcery book club that I host. And I also have now a full live show where I talked about this magazine with Kristen from Kristenal SFF Reader, and we go in full depth about this magazine. Sure, like, it's difficult to talk about short story magazine because it contains like 5 different short stories and an essay. So, like, I personally enjoyed a lot of the stories. I gave this 4 stars. It was probably like one of the better things that I read this, by the way. Also gave this one 4 stars. So I felt like I got to end this year, end 2021 with a bang when it came to my reading. I read a bunch of really cool things. And yeah, if you are interested to know my thoughts on Choreo issue 1, I will leave the live show linked in the cards and in the description. And yeah, this has been the last reading wrap-up of 2021. Finally, I did it. And I will see you in another video very soon. If you got this far, please leave me a fireworks emoji, because we have started the new year. We are in 2022 now. So leave me a fireworks emoji if you got this far. And I will see you in the next video very soon. Bye bye!